Hello YouTube pipers, it's Double O Pipe, also known as Rick. I'm going to fill my Savinelli Bing's Favorite with some Peter Stokeby PS 701 Virginia. So I guess this is just a Virginia tobacco, meaning not a blend, so that I'll taste what Virginia alone is like. It's a little on the dry side. Matter of fact, I don't feel much moisture at all. Just maybe a tad. Alrighty. I've had that sitting around in a plastic bag. I had forgotten I had purchased it a while back. I put it in a box and forgot all about it. That's not very smart, is it? It appears my lighter isn't going to light. I have a feeling that that balsa filter in there is totally blocking the draw. And I'm going to do something you're not supposed to do. I'm going to take that thing out and just toss it. I know that's a no-no whenever you're in the middle of smoking a pipe, but you got to be able to draw the flame. The last time I was on here was before Idalia went through. Not sure I like Virginia by itself. Tastes kind of raw. Probably because there's nothing, no topping, no nothing. I don't know. But I'll smoke a few bowls of this to see what it tastes like. Hit the back of my throat. Anyway, I understand when it went through Florida, it tore up a few things, but as it went up and came along to us, it went from hurricane status to tropical storm status. Excuse me. And here where I live, we did not catch the brunt of the tropical storm. Up in the north area and Somerville and such, I understand they did catch some heavy rains and some harsh wind. They had some footage of a car being lifted off a road in Goose Creek and thrown into a ditch, which that's a pretty serious wind. But here, it didn't really pick up very hard at all. We had a little bit of moss pulled out of the trees, and we had a couple of small branches that had been flicked off the trees. And I walked out when I heard the top of the trees out there being heavily thrown around, so that you heard what sounded like harsh winds coming through. But it really wasn't. So for this area, this neighborhood where I live, we were blessed. We had some, it wasn't even heavy winds. And the rain put some water in the yard, but it wasn't as heavy as other places. And on that night, what they call around here a king tide was scheduled to come in. And with the hurricane or the tropical storm being situated here at that particular time, my greatest fear was flooding. And I was going to take Hunter out, and I walked to the door, opened it up, and stepped down, and the tide was coming in. I mean, it was coming in. It was rushing in. I've never seen it come in that fast. And as I stood there, it went from an inch deep to a foot deep as I watched it just coming in, coming in. And this was just the beginning of high tide. High tide, there was an hour and a half more tidal encroaching scheduled. Because here, in this specific place, high tide would have reached its pinnacle at 11:30. So I looked down at that water coming in. I couldn't take Hunter out because it was too deep to take him out, and it was filling the yard up. And I looked at that, and I looked at the clock. There was an hour and a half more till 11:30. So I talked to my mother, who was in heaven. I said, Mama, your fears are coming true tonight. Her biggest fear in a hurricane was that this house would go underwater. And I'm telling you, at 9:30, that tide coming in was gushing in. I mean, I can't tell you how fast it was coming. Like I said, when I first looked at it, it was an inch. And by the time I started to go in the house, it was a foot. And we still had an hour and a half to go before the tide reached its height. So I came in and I closed that door because we couldn't leave now. We had nowhere to go, for one thing. There was nowhere for me to go. So I came in, I closed the door, I locked it, and I prayed with all my heart. I prayed. I said, please, if there's anything you can do to stop this water from rising, I would be ever grateful. And I went on like that for a little while, with my back to this door. Then I went back to my room. Hunter followed me back. And I tried to get him to get on the bed because I figured that water was going to be up within the next half hour. It was going to be in the house. But he wouldn't get on the bed, so I kept feeling the floor, waiting for the carpet to become sopping wet. Because these little vents to the side of the house, I saw the water swirling into them. So it went under the house, and the sump, not the sump pump, but the dehumidifier that I have under there was underwater because it's no longer working. So it was completely destroyed with the water. And I kept telling Hunter, come on and get on the bed. Boy, come on, get on the bed. And he just looked at me and lay there. For some reason, he will not get on that bed. Even when I'm not around, he won't get on that bed. My other two, that was their favorite place. So I just lay down on the bed, and he was laying beside me, and I was petting him, saying, now, when you get wet, you just jump up here now, because we can't go anywhere. This is the only place we got. Talking to the dog like he'd understand me. And I prayed a little bit more, and I said, we got another hour and a half, Lord. Please, if there's anything you can do, keep it from coming into this house. And I was just remembering how fast that water was coming in. And when I looked at it, it was at the little above the second step. I have 3 steps, and then you step up to the threshold. And it was, by the time I came in, it was up just a little above the second step, and still just poured in because there were leaves on top of the water. You could see it just rushing past. And I kept putting my hand down on the carpet, still dry, and we could hear the water under the house gurgling and swirling, and the electricity had gone out about 8:30. It didn't come back on till after midnight, I think. And I just gave it up. I said, there's nothing I can do about this, Lord. It's all in your hands. And whatever your decision is, just help me live through that decision. So I just lay back. All the anxiety just left me because whatever happened, it would happen. And about every 10 minutes, I'd put my hand down on the floor and look at Hunter, and he would just look at me. And then we would hear the water gurgling under the house, and he'd kind of turn his head like, "What is that?" Because he had no idea, because I hadn't taken him out at all. And as time went on, I couldn't believe, that it had not come up through the floorboards. Because it was under there. You could hear it. It was under there. And I could look out here, and the side of the creek, you couldn't see the land anymore because the water was above that, so that it was just a lake. Because I opened the window and shined a flashlight and saw it reflecting off the water. And as time went on, I kept saying, "Thank you, thank you." I'm so glad you heard my prayer. Thank you. And I waited till 12:30 because the tide should have started going down after 11:30. And I said, "Let's go see if we can go out to Hunter." And I walked to the door, I opened it up, turned the light on. And the tide had gone down to so that it was maybe 2 inches above the carport out there. And I was flabbergasted because the rate that tide was coming in, there's no way that it could not have come into this house. So I'm telling you, it's a miracle from Jesus. That's no laughing matter because I believe it. It's a miracle from him. I don't know if there's some scientific reason why it happened, but to me, that was a miracle. At any rate, I checked in the morning when it was light to see how, because it left a watermark where it had been. And you want to know the truth? When I looked at that watermark, that spot where I had seen it before I closed the door, that's as high as it got. That's as high as it got. And that water was nothing. It was coming in. There was no way around it. It was coming in. But I swear to you, that spot where it was when I closed the door and started praying about it, that is the last, or that is the watermark that I measured the next day in the daylight. I was flabbergasted. So to me, prayer works. There's no other explanation for that in my book. So, I thank the Lord. I thank Jesus. Holy Mother, I tell you, that was a miracle. If you had been here, you'd have said the same thing, because if you'd seen that current coming in and the leaves atop that water flying by, you'd have felt like me at the time, that there was no way that water would not be coming up into the house with an hour and a half more to go before the tide settled out. So you can believe it or not, but I'm telling you, it was a miracle. And I know my mother smiled down on me because she must have known that was going to happen like that. But that was always her greatest fear, that this house was going to be flooded. It's been here since 1959. And I know at least 3 times it has been saved from flooding. And I know my mother was a woman of God. And I know she prayed every time. So I'm saying prayer works. Prayer works. So that's pretty much all I had to say. But I felt like that was something you should hear. Whether you believe me or not, that's another story. But I'm telling you what I believe. At any rate, this Sunday afternoon, beautiful Sunday, cool fall weather, sunny, dry. I'm just ever grateful. You folks take care of yourselves. I hope you have a good holiday tomorrow. My son's coming over and I look forward to it. Take care of yourselves. God bless you. Till the next time. Bye-bye.